Morning, everyone. I know I said I'd be doing this every morning, and I will be back to that cadence and trend, but I was away at a role-playing convention for a week, which was rather lovely, and life got busy in all kinds of ways. But back at it, back going on. I unfortunately don't have a very exciting update for you, as I'm still very much in performance land and working on the text stuff I spoke about before, because that's what game dev is like sometimes. Sometimes game dev just be like that. I do miss having a larger team because, obviously when you're working on something that's a bit, shall we say, stale or at a slow cadence, then they're working on other stuff and they're making progress. And so the game's always progressing. And I have to say that is something I am finding very difficult as a solo dev. Well, practically a solo dev. If we're able to get more funding or whatever, the plan is to hire people. Originally, the plan was to hire a bunch of people, but the VR funding space is where it is at the moment, which is good and bad. There's a lovely VR game being developed. It's a sort of cyberpunk bartending game being developed by mostly new devs, and I think it's called Project Mix, if I recall off the top of my head. And they've been, because they're new devs, they've been having a rough time sort of understanding it all and getting into everything and finding their audience. We're all struggling with that. And so they were talking about where the space is at the moment, and the thing I said to them was, this is actually a really good time for a team like them where their costs are low because they're all ambitious students. They're passionate about VR, and the upside is big, but the reality is most VR devs just have to operate in an environment where they don't expect to make much money. There is money to be made, and there is, I do believe you can have a viable VR business, or I would not have quit my very nice job at Adobe. Also, lots of news dropped this week about Sony, with Herman being removed from his position, and there no longer being a co-CEO role. He's still in his position in PlayStation Studios, but his position in PlayStation, the company, has changed. And I think that's ultimately good news for PlayStation VR, for a variety of reasons. So that was a bit of good news. And I am hearing good news from devs, smaller devs, working in the PlayStation VR space. So I'm very excited to get onto porting Godot to PlayStation VR and moving my project there and supporting that. I definitely won't have the issues I'm currently having debugging performance on Android, because it's PlayStation's a much more mature ecosystem. It has much more mature tools, and as an ex-Sony person, I'm a lot more familiar with debugging and squeezing the performance out of that. And frankly, anything that's not standalone VR, you just have so much more oomph to pull on. I think ultimately you can make a much better game, but obviously we cater to the VR market as it exists, and the VR market as it exists, Quest is a dominant force, and you can't ignore that. I mean, it does mean if you're a smaller team, you can be more, you can sustain yourself on smaller ecosystems, but my wife and I were having this conversation about our company and about where things go, And our current title is definitely a Quest first title and everything there, but I think there's a very real chance that our next title will be developed with console and PC VR as our primary, with a full intention of launching on Quest. Now, one of the reasons why people always say you should dev for your low performance platforms like Quest first and then port up is because you can always turn knobs up. It's very hard to turn knobs down. But while I largely agree with that statement, I think our situation is a little different in the sense of because we have I always feel nervous when I say this. I want to say because we have a strong technical basis, because, obviously I'm very techie, but that sounds like just like, because I'm such a good programmer. I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's more because I'm such a shit everything else that, it's more about the balance of stuff, and a lot of the challenges we'll face, or the hardest challenges we'll face, are not necessarily technical challenges. And so then the focus and the what's the word I'm looking for? The focus and the extra performance and everything that we get from developing on, say, console, for example, gives us the ability then to make a better title, I think, or at least for the kind of title our next title is going to be. Now, it also may sound really strange to be talking about the next title when we haven't even announced, let alone launched, our current title. But one of the realities of game studios, as opposed to game hobby projects or whatever, is you're constantly thinking about cash flow and deals and publishers and yada yada yada, all that business stuff. And so, now's the time that we're talking to publishers and, taking pitch decks and stuff, and we're doing it for the next project, and we're thinking about how to line all that up, because, some things have very long lead times. Sometimes, deals just take a very, very long time to come together. And this gives us the time and space to talk to people about that and to find our collaborators, because, you need to find the people who might really want to work on a thing with you. And that requires, sort of poking around your friend network, looking for opportunities, your professional network, and, doing that sort of, oh, okay, so you're looking for a project to work on. Oh, looks like we might get funding. Or, oh, you're in a place to work for a thing on a more equity basis or whatever. It's all those conversations. It can sound rather dull, but it's one of the hardest things is to stay focused on the current project while you're doing that when you're a small team. Because if you're in a game studio, it's very natural in that you have people who are the developers who are very focused on making the current game, and then studio leadership is busy looking at what's next while you're all trying to ship what you're currently doing, because they're basically making sure that there's work for the studio to move on to, rather than just letting stuff happen. Oh, this is a nice quick one today, isn't it? Well, we're back in the trend. As I say, I hopefully will have more notes about everything that's happening with Godot and the tech stuff. But for now, toodles and I'll catch up with you all tomorrow. Maybe I'll talk about the role-playing convention a bit. Bye-bye.